It's a great day here at Kekfilet's YouTube channel. I am the Kekfilet, and today I have a video. It's all about Marco, and I have a lot of fantastic guests here, actually. We'll go kind of in left to right order if I remember the order I put them in. I first have Justin. How you doing today, Justin?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good.
Doing good. Great. I'm glad to hear that. I have Eric. How you doing today, Eric?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing good. And then there's me over here. And then on the right, we have Steakfrank. What's up, man?
What's up? Living the dream, man. Living the dream for
Living the
sure.
dream. Today, we just want to bring you a Set 8 Marco video. We may talk a little bit about 8.5 Marco, but this deck hasn't really been explored a whole lot. It hasn't been topping big events just yet. But we want to maximize this, super fun, consistent red, blue, white beard deck from where that is. But if you guys don't know these guys already, their socials will be down in the description as well. They do a lot of coachings and things like that, and I'm going to give them some chance to talk about that now. But if you're looking just to get jumped to the video part, you can click on the timestamps down below. But Justin, what have you got going on right now in general?
Yeah, so I recently got second at a store regional, kind of through getting first, but sometimes you just tunnel vision plays. But yeah, I got my invite for that. Then now I have San Diego and I have Dallas regionals lined up for me, so that's pretty exciting. And yes, I do have a coaching service. You can put the link in the description and do your thing. But yeah, everything's looking fine.
Great.
I'm excited for 8.5.
Great, yeah. And Eric, what have you been up to lately? What's your journey been in this couple weeks? I know
I've been doing
topped at nationals. By the way, you all topped at nationals. So
yeah,
looking amazing, right? But Eric top 8 at nationals, which is even more insane, right?
Yeah, I got pretty
Eric
fortunate.
beat my ass at nationals.
Yeah, let's be real. You got a little unlucky. I got a little lucky.
Did Eric muck both of us?
Yeah, I did let both y'all in twist, but it was fun. So I got lucky in a lot of it. I have some coaching going on. Hopefully gonna be able to go back into streaming because my computer has not been messing up. Thank God. And then I have a couple big events. I have an online regional this upcoming week, and then I have my store championship. Hopefully there I get my invite. And then just Dallas. Yeah. And then not One Piece related, but then I'm going to DBZ Nat. So
nice.
It's Bondi related, right?
Yeah.
Before next year we're gonna be talking about Gundam. And
for real.
And the first set.
Wait, Eric, you're on Fusion World?
Yeah, I mean I randomly at Gen Con I got my invite because I topped the DBZ event. So
was this during Top Coup?
No, it was literally after the ban.
Oh.
I was on droids. But yeah.
Interesting.
Nice.
Still on
have you been coaching mostly through DMs lately, or is it Metafy?
Half Metafy, half DMs. Whichever one's easier for y'all. You can DM me ideally on Discord or on X, or message or do it through Metafy. And always I check them all.
And Frank, other than going top 32 with a rogue deck, right, which is beautiful. Perota, what have you been up to lately?
Not much, honestly. Just like regular life stuff, work, all that jazz.
Yeah.
I got in off the online regional waitlist this past weekend. I'm really hoping to get in this next weekend for the online regionals, and then I should be playing in the October 26th one as well, and then I have one store regional I'm waitlisted at on Saturday. That's like my local store. That's like 30 minutes from me. So I'm really hoping to get into that one. And then I'm driving I think like an hour and 45 for another one. A week from now. And then I'll be at San Diego as well.
Okay, yeah. And you're committed to topping and getting your Nats invite with Marco, right? That's like
Marco will be. I'm saying that I will be getting my Nats invite with Marco. It's I'm 100%.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll share each other's deck list a little bit today, and also go over each deck list and kind of give your thoughts, and maybe you guys will change each other's mind. And
I'm excited to hear what everybody else has to say, because I've tried like every combination of cards I feel like the deck can have, and I have a lot of strong opinions about it, but I really want to hear what other people have found and what they've tried, and because I have a couple things I might want to change, but I'm really interested to see what everybody has to say.
Yeah, great. Okay. With that, we're gonna just jump into the deck lists, and I first actually wanted to bring up Marco in general. People, you guys should probably learn what this deck actually does, what the leader does. Draw a card, put a card on top of the deck or bottom, and then -2. A lot of people forget that you actually could just do that on your first turn. So maybe learn the leader in general, but with that, past the basics of the deck, Jansuko, I wanted to kind of give you some time to kind of explain the deck, your version of it, and why you kind of came to this list, and then I'll jump in between segments to talk about certain kind of topics.
Yeah, so I was bouncing around a lot of lists because as we're approaching set 8, this is before like the bans were, enforced. So I was thinking, because I was gonna play Marco anyway, because I just I was like, yo, this deck is sick. So I wanted to play it. So I was like, okay, cool. So far it's like an event based deck because it just helps deal with like the board flood from like Law and a little bit on Lucci. But once the ban hit, the super heavy Fire Fist event version of it like lost its like charm for me, because I feel like you only really needed to run that list because the meta was Law and Lucci, and it just kind of just like shits on Law because just every turn it's just like leader ability Fire Fist, leader ability Fire Fist, and then you just like start shitting out big bodies at the end. But now that Law got hit and it just became a super hard black meta, I had to switch up heavily on how the deck was going to roll. At first I was running event heavy, and it was nice, but there's just a lot of times and I know the deck has a built-in filter, but sometimes you just see way too many bricks in hand, and unless you can like actively toss them out while not losing tempo on the board, you're just like a sitting duck. So I went more of like a character heavy tempo build.
Okay.
This was like the peak that I came up with because I know a lot of people was saying like Sanji's peel off is like the way to go for the deck, and it can if depending on like the variant of the deck, but I feel like having a filter, a Doflamingo blocker to set my top 5, and an Ezo searcher, I can usually search like the exact targets that I need depending on the situation. Because to me, Marco feels like a reactionary mid-range deck that I can change how I play out the game like on the fly, which is really nice. That's what I like drew me towards the deck, because I come from playing Red Green Law and Red Purple Law, so just having like another mid-range deck like similar in a way to it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people kind of like scoffed off at Atmos and Jozu at the start because they're thinking like, why would I want to bounce their cards back to the hand? But Atmos bounces Borsalino, it bounces Kuzan, it bounces Rebecca, it bounces Lucci, it bounces too many important targets.
It's good.
And especially, and I know there's a lot of like a huge concern with the community. It was like, why would I want to bounce a Lucci back to the hand? They can just wipe my board again. It's like, okay, let me watch them drop their hand to do it again and get rid of their trash again to do that.
Yeah,
I would rather them burn more resources to wipe my board all for one card.
Yeah, and I agree. I do want to say that this deck is pretty top heavy, like in general, right? And so you have to survive to get there. So cards like Atmos and Jozu help get there, right?
Yeah, they help stall out. Jozu especially has, because at first I wasn't a believer in Jozu because I was like, man, I have to bounce something and then I get to bounce a 6 cost or less. It's kind of heavy. But I feel like as I got more comfortable with the deck and started playing it and being more like proficient with it, Jozu's insane. It's like, okay, I play an Otama, I trade into something for free, and then I bounce something else and put the Otama back in my hand. Or I bounce the Ezo back into my hand, so now I have a searcher again, and I recurve some of my counter back. Yeah. Or say I use Ace's ability to put out a Jozu or a 2K Kingdu on the board. It's like, okay, Kingdu 6K, bounce in my hand, bounce something on their board. Yeah. Or like I could refresh it with pudding too. It's like pudding, bounce, or bounce.
The bouncing
pudding.
really reminds me of like Red Green Law or Green Law specifically. Like picking up your Otamas makes Otama the best card now in the game.
Yeah. So not guard, that's why he's really strong.
Yeah.
And in terms of my top end, for Rayleigh, this card is insane. I love it. A lot of people don't think it's good, but I think it's one of the best red cards that we have right now. Just being able to perma-tag 2 things for 3 and 2 and then pop a 3K is very strong. And because it also gives us heavy flexible plays, not only that, but it also goes into tandem with our leader ability, so we can hit bigger targets. There's been many times where it's like -3 on Moria, so that's a weak attacker, -2 to Lucci, then I'll pop the Rebecca, and then just hard swing at the Lucci, and it's like I got rid of 2 things, and his Moria's weaker now. So it's effectively a board clear for me.
Yeah.
All for 9 Dawn because of leader ability, and then Rayleigh, and then it gets even stronger if you can combo with Sanji. So it's now like now I have 2 big bodies. I just wiped your board. Now you have to react or you lose the next turn.
They're trying to race you, which is why it feels pretty good against Lucci. But I kind of wanted to gauge one thing for this intermediate topic is actually about events, because there are a lot of lists that run events. This is the one it's basically, I'm going to call it event list, even though this, Bad Manners Kick course is just a 2K counter, right?
Yes.
Basically. Like, what do you guys' general opinions about like events in this deck? Frank or Quint?
All of us, or
I think all of us.
I'm gonna start.
Go for it.
I just feel like if you're playing Pilaf and Fire Fist, which are I think the real appeal of like playing the events is that you get access to Fire Fist and you need a lot of events to do it. So that's why you kind of stack the events in your deck. I feel like playing out a card and not establishing board really doesn't do much for the deck, because like you can draw a bunch of cards and draw a counter with Pilaf and like make it to your 10 Dawn turn so you can start spamming out Sanjis. But if you haven't had any board to like start applying pressure like in the early to mid game, then even if you have like a huge board, your opponent is just going to be able to take your 4 life and kill you before you can even like start to whittle away at theirs. So I think you kind of need cards in the early and the mid game to establish board. And I tried the Fire Fist for a long time, and it's good in certain matchups, like obviously against like Zoro and certain like aggro matchups where they play a lot of low bodies. But because you're so fragile, if you're not like, netting a lot of cards, you just kind of like fizzle out really hard. Discarding 2 cards from hand to like clear 2 bodies is good, but I just feel like with your opponent like being able to swing leader every turn, or if you just miss a body or 2, like you're just not going to be able to keep up with your hand size, and you're just going to end up losing. So I'm not a huge fan of like the Fire Fist and Pilaf.
And I was going to say, and to add on to that, Fire Fist requires you to have an event, and sometimes you don't have it.
Yeah.
And you're not developing at the same time either. It's like if for some reason there's like I guess a good comparison would be like the 6 cost Sabo from set 5. It's like if we had that but a lower cost, then it'd be a lot more doable. But because we don't have a fucking Lucci, and when we do burn our cards to do it, it's like cool, I got rid of 2. I have nothing on board to swing with, and it's just my lead, and all he had to do is pitch a 1K or a 2K.
Yeah. It was Fire Fist was definitely meant for like a Zoro like deck because you play 1 drops. But Eric?
Yeah, and then I'm also not on the event, mostly because I found like if you're not playing it on your second turn, Pilaf usually ends up getting stuck in hand.
Yeah.
Because most of the time you're playing a character each turn, and when you get to later turns, you ideally are slamming monsters on board, and all of them don't let you draw into don't let you have Dawn to play Pilaf. So you end up trying to do like this like super, you try to become like this really like weird kind of efficient deck where you're trying to play like 3 things in one turn, but that's like not the deck strength. The deck strength is it's able to cheat out 17 Dawn worth of cards in one turn.
While removing cards,
While removing stuff. You don't want to be like using your turn to draw 2 cards when you're not really gaining any advantage of it.
Exactly.
So I found myself most of the time using Pilaf only on my second turn, or maybe my 7th turn if I'm like trying to putting them and then try and draw 2 cards. But even then, that feels weaker than doing a lot of different other plays.
Yeah. Okay. So. I guess one event that's big that people will bring up because this is a blue deck is Raging Tiger. Is there a time where you guys like, oh, maybe I should play Raging Tiger because there's this deck?
I ran. Yeah. Oh my bad.
No, go for it.
I ran for a bit. I ran 2 copies of Raging Tiger, but although really good for board clear, especially against BY Luffy, it kind of felt like it was only meant for BY Luffy. Because when it comes to the other decks, it's either small enough for Rayleigh to just pop it or for us to just swing into it, or it was too big to be out of Raging Tiger range. So in that regard, which is why I feel like the Atmos and the Jozu feel stronger, is because Jozu can still, hard remove things because there's nothing to counter bouncing at the moment. And like I said before, what I like to do is like Jozu into Pudding, such as do like a hard reset on the hand, or to do like a Pudding Jozu combo. I just feel like against most decks, clear isn't really too big of a problem because we have Rayleigh. And I do run like a couple copies of Ace to help if they do go wide and they do swing at me to be aggressive. Then it's like, okay, I just play Ace leader ability. Their board is gone no matter what.
Okay. Great. Yeah. I mean, one thing I'm going to resonate like all the time is never don't half-ass two things, only whole-ass one thing. And it seems that Raging Tiger is meant for like a deck like Boa Hancock because you can benefit from it, right? But if you play in a deck that's not meant for like Marco's good at other things, right? Which is playing bodies and removing bodies in red and blue while being, having their own thing. So
and Eric.
I think so. Raging, he's right. Like Raging Tiger is in my list, and I literally have it only for BY.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the that for BY, and then for when they do Sabo turns because you can't KO their stuff. But only because that matchup is probably in big events, you're probably gonna see like 30% of the field play BY at the moment. Yeah. And I know we can probably be worse BY players without Raging Tiger, but when you get to like the better ones, having the threat of Raging Tiger is really good. And then sometimes just being able to, like, you did your first Sanji turn and then you go Raging Tiger, their blocker Sabo, swing 11, swing 11. That's usually like enough leeway where they can't really respond. But I agree, it's mostly only for BY, but because it's such a prevalent part of the meta that I think it's like worth looking at. You don't have to run it. I don't think anyone needs to run any like the only one that I would recommend is you should run for Rayleigh because that card is beyond broken.
God card.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Raging Tiger is like the only event besides the zero drop that I think is worth running. There might be like one or two other ones like people run, like maybe they run like the Sea Quake. I used to like that card, but I just found that I'm already so weak to Zoro that even if I have that little tech for it, it just doesn't matter.
Okay.
So
I actually just recently added 3 Raging Tiger to my list. I cut the 7-cost Ace for it, and I really agree with what Eric was saying. Is just like I wanted to just not lose to Black Yellow, and when I felt like I could beat Black Yellow, but like when you're playing against like when you think about the best players in the game, like the top 10 players in the game, most of them are playing like Black Yellow right now. And so it's just like, I know if I go against somebody who is just better than me, like I want to have that edge. And it's decent enough into like Lucci and 3D2Y, like that it's not something I'll use every game, but there are certain board state scenarios where it's good enough that I think it warranted adding the copies like on top of it already, mostly being for the BY matchup. And I mean, that's, Lucci, Black Yellow Luffy and 3D2Y Luffy are like 70% of the meta. So it's, I think it warranted its own spot.
And the triggers are very nice.
Yeah, the trigger's cool. And I felt like with the cycle of the leader ability, like if you just have it like super early or have it in a matchup where you don't need it, it's just like immediately it's going to be a good bottom deck target. And yeah, getting around Sabo in the Lucci matchup, like if they play it on 5 or 6, you can just reduce it to 4, leave it, play your other characters, and then next turn they put out another Sabo or like a Gecko Lucci or Kuzan or something like that. It's just a nice kind of play to have. And I think Black is one of the only matchups where it's like I don't necessarily need to be slamming down Sanji on 10 or having to play Rayleigh on 8. Like you can slow down the game a lot against them. So it kind of made sense to just keep it in there because there are a lot of turns where you'd use it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. The next topic I kind of wanted to go over is actually, I'm just going to Eric's list here. Eric said he's been doing this more on the sim. We're kind of BY mains over here, but we're part of the problem. But he's been playing this a whole lot, and obviously we respect Eric's opinion on deck list. But why don't you go over your deck list here specifically? Why you did this?
We'll just do the interesting choices. I run ulti. Ulti's my choice of card advantage. It does two things. One, I think it's the best turn 2 in the deck if you go second. You can go swing and then play it, and you get to get a card, manipulate if you get, so like say you see a blocker Marco on top, you can put it as a second from the top. And then if you draw, then you get to play ace, bring out the blocker Marco, then leader effect, you get to essentially draw another free card. The second thing is when you go first, you can use ulti if you have, like, say your hand, because a lot of times, I don't know about everyone else, but a lot of times I end up having like the Sanji plus another piece in my hand. So basically, the reason I run Namul and ulti is to basically change that piece to go to the top of my deck so I can play it the next turn. It usually happens more on odd because when we're on even curve at 10 Dawn, we have the whole Sanji play. But on 9 Dawn, we can't put the Dawn our leader.
Yeah.
So you can prep it beforehand by going like leader effect, putting, for example, Dragon on top of our deck, playing ulti, looking at the top 3, picking a card, and then manipulating Dragon or Whitebeard or Rayleigh to the second card.
Yeah.
Go for your next turn, and on 9 play Sanji into your big guy.
Yeah.
So you have ways, and you can do the same thing with Namul, because Namul is draw 2 and then put 2 on top or on bottom.
Okay.
We're all running Pudding's the broken card. I chose Raging Tiger because we already explained earlier, strictly just for the BY matchup. Actually, it was thanks to Jansuko and then my other friend Aaron is the reason I'm on Dragon, because my first list did not run Dragon. It just ran Newgate and Rayleigh, and I have liked Dragon a lot. It has become a sleeper favorite card of mine.
I think Dragon's pretty much like a staple red card in every red deck. Like,
I want to hear more about the Dragon, because I've been debating cutting my 2 copies of Newgate for 2 Dragon, and I haven't in my brain like really saw the possibilities for the card, but I really kind of want to hear, where the best times you play it are, like what the utilities of the card are.
So I've used it to clear big bodies. Oh, it's the obvious one. Like on 8, you get to play it. Usually it's on 9, but it's mostly been like I already have like a law on board. I mean, ace on board with like a Marco or any early game card.
Mm-hmm.
You get to go Dragon, brush it out, put the 2 Dawn. I've done it against BY where I put 2 Dawn on the Dragon itself to swing 11. I've done it, put it on my guy to minus their character so I can swing into it for more favorable numbers. But putting pressure, like you were saying earlier, a lot of times people like put the Dawn, but they don't have any pressure. On 8 Dawn, if they don't have a board that you need to get rid of, Dragon actually puts the most pressure on them because it's just a 7-9 swing instantly, and then you're following up with another big body, so they have to answer multiple cards at once. And then with Dragon on board, it lets you play more defensive because now they already know that you have a big attacker. So now the next Newgate that comes out is even more impactful because now you're a 7K, already have a big body that's swinging at them. So now you're swinging, I guess, like 8, 9. The next turn is now like multiple numbers, and then you can compact it with ace. So now you have 7 with ace, 7 with your leader, 9 with dragon, things of that nature.
It's just really easy to overwhelm people once you play dragon, because dragon also puts people into like a very stressful mind state where they kind of get like tunnel vision to like get rid of it immediately, or at least like they have in mind it's like, okay, now they have a dragon on the board and they can either pressure my life, which like a 9K swing basically guarantees like a hit depending on how their life, or like Quintana said, is like it just helps clear boards so fucking well because you strap the 2 to leader. Or usually what I do against like Luigi players, if they play like a 7-cost jack on the board, it's like, okay, if I don't have Rayleigh, which like gets rid of it immediately, it's like, okay, slam dragon, put 2 Dawn on my leader, minus it by 2, dump your hand to keep it on the board.
Do you ever feel like you play it over a Rayleigh? Because that was kind of my thought. It's just like I feel like I'm in all the situations where I imagine myself playing dragon, I just feel myself wanting to play the Rayleigh instead.
From my perspective, when I've been playing dragon a little bit, essentially there's just times you just attacking. Usually when you have another character on board, because you can use the other character to also attack, because you can take advantage of the actual 2 Dawn on like another character. But if it's just Rayleigh by himself, it might be a little different, especially if they don't have like the ideal board or even like an ideal board to remove that turn. But what about you guys?
I like Dragon first instead of Rayleigh because Rayleigh's better when you have more Dawn. Because then you can allocate it better so you get better attacks. Because the minusing usually, if you get to play like 9 or 10 Dawn, you have more options of what to minus and how to mess up your opponent's board. And then recently, I think we've on like 7 Dawn turns, people have been protecting their board, so we don't actually get the minus effect and the pop usually. So I like getting the full value of Rayleigh. I know I could be greedy, but you always will get the full value out of Dragon because the worst case scenario, it's a 7/9 attack. Split in between. So I like it better as the first one. I'm not gonna say it's better than Rayleigh because that's the reason I have 4 of Rayleigh in this deck and not 4 of Dragon. So I think the first Dragon before 10 Dawn is better, and then after that I think Rayleigh's are better usually. And then there's also sometimes where like you just need the rusher to close out a game. Sometimes you just go Dragon or you put Dragon 9/9, something like that. Like that's come up not non-zero.
And to add on to that, like playing Dragon for like or holding the Rayleigh for the following turn just feels stronger because like Eric said, you can allocate your Dawn a lot better or your minuses. And there's been like a lot of times where I can leader ability and then also playing Otama to combo with the Rayleigh to help make, getting rid of the board a lot easier for me. There's just more times where I can have an easier time just playing the Dragon rather than the Rayleigh also, because Dragon is just a generically strong card, where Rayleigh has, although he's strong to just play, but he has more intricate moments on the board state that can just completely win you the game if used at the right time.
Yeah, so basically the way I view it is Dragon's more rigid, but it's like always going to be good. Relay's more flexible, so it has the range of being like an okay card to like the best card in the deck. And an 8 Dawn, most of the time I find myself, if I want Rayleigh, I'll choose to play the Rayleigh because it'll be like broken at that spot. But if it's not, more often than not, Dragon will also be like, it's just really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would definitely test it out, see if you like it. But I found it's really good. And then being able to do it and then use your leader effect right after has also just been amazing.
I
wanted
to go over one card as another little middle segment here. It's actually Edward Newgate, because I know Jansuko's off of Newgate, and I personally have found Newgate a little underwhelming. And that's why we just talked about Dragon a little bit more. What are your thoughts on Newgate specifically in this deck?
Yeah.
It's my deck is a little more control-y, but I found that it's fine because one, Izo can find one of our pieces for like our top end.
Yeah.
And in some matchups, the plus 2k on your leader is huge. It will probably won't happen much now, but like against Dofi, it's really good. Against Reiju, it's really good. Against Zoro, but I don't play any of my cards for Zoro. That matchup is horrendous. It's also really good if you can get to that point.
He's in the Calgary too.
Yeah, he's good against Calgary. Thank you.
Same with the Tiger, the Raging, the Gravity Blade.
Yeah, so for those matchups where you need a little bit more stability, like because most of the time we all agree like we want to try and get like a Marco out early, and then later on we use that as our real defensive engine, and then just making our leader 7k is another decent defensive engine. It's also good into BY Luffy. Being 10k is no small thing because one Dawn already gets 2 cards out of our opponent, and as a BY player, the most annoying thing is seeing an 11 as the first swing, and they still have like 9 to 10 Dawn up. So
I like the secondary effect of the card a lot too. Like I feel like
I've also
yeah.
I have also KO'd stuff thanks to Rayleigh. I've definitely done a Rayleigh combo where minus something 3002, swung into one of them and then KO'd the other one with the Newgate effect. Yeah. But yeah, he's good. He's slow is the best way to say it, but he's very powerful. So if you do get to play him on board with the Sanji, he's really strong. he's probably not the best one to play solo. I'd almost always rather play Rayleigh or Dragon if I had it, because they're a little bit more flexible in what they can do, because they impact the board immediately.
Yeah.
But he might be the, I don't want to say the best, but like he probably could feel like the strongest like neutral board Sanji bring back, because he just makes you big board.
Yeah. What I'm, because the main thing when someone plays a Edward Newgate on me, I'm thinking the next turn I have to kill him this turn, or like I really need to have like a big hand. Like I had to set up not to lose against Newgate. I'm on a timer.
But that's also a good thing, right? Because it's kind of like all right, try and beat me button, but they have to try and beat you when you're at 7K.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I like the fact too that he is a 9 cost compared to an 8 cost. Because obviously you get the more value off Sanji from it. But yeah, like for Lucci, for example, they Ice Age it to 4 and then leader effect, and it's only at 3, so they need some other form of reduction to be able to KO it with their 4 cost Lucci. So it's just like a little bit stickier in the black.
The extra cost does matter.
Yeah, so I like it a lot for that reason too.
Okay. Got it.
But yeah.
I'd also like to add, as like a general thing, right, for the people watching. I don't know. I know a couple people agree with me on this, but I feel like power reduction is probably one of the strongest forms of clear, because there's just nothing you can do about that. At least with cost, you can prevent it. You can increase your cost. You can prevent KO. You can't do anything about power reduction. So I feel like being able to, abuse the fact that our leader ability just has the freest -2 is like really, really, really strong.
Agreed. Being able to minus something attack into it has always been and will probably always be one of the better ways to get rid of a card.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one thing that like makes a leader very strong, or what I think a leader is good, is just how often you're able to use the leader ability, because that's really what is setting your deck apart from the other decks, is like that special characteristic that you get. So the fact that you have a leader that just wants to use its leader ability every turn and reduce and can always get value out of it, I think you get a lot of value like just from that reduction in general compared to like a lot of other leaders.
Especially since it impacts the board too. A leader ability that impacts the board that you can use every single turn is insane.
Yeah.
And it's a filter.
Okay. Great. I want to move on to the next section, which is essentially Steakfrank's build. I almost call it, this is crazy, bro. This is such a crazy build, but it actually works, and he's in the kitchen right now. But why don't you go over your build, explain anything to us?
This deck's broken, dude. Like, all right. First of all, like, all right, this card right here, dude. Where is she at?
Imperial and Vonkov?
So insane card. I think every Marco deck should play this card right here. It's broken. So, all right, think of peel off, right? I'm like paying 3 Dawn to draw 2 cards. No counter, nothing on board. And I think the cool thing about this deck is like, because you're so often like reducing characters by 2, like you're reducing these sideways characters, like having cards on the board to just be able to poke something reduced to like 3 or 4K is really convenient, because it allows you to use your 5K leader swing to start applying pressure and closing the game out earlier, or just, putting pressure on your opponent. And I think the thing that I learned from the Perona deck is like, when you're playing a 4 life leader, you really need to kind of salvage the fact that you are like a little less healthy by just having more primary targets on your board to divert your opponent's swings at your life like into your board and kind of pseudo block for you. So the Ivankov is like something that they just need to get rid of immediately. So like as soon as you turn it sideways, like it not only draws you an extra card, but like takes an attack. Or it's just so good in that sense. And like, yeah, with the peel off, right, drawing 2 cards, no counter. Like the Ivankov, a lot of the time for 3 Dawn is going to draw you 2 cards anyway, right? You're either going to put the pudding off the top of your deck and put it back into hand, so that's a card draw, or you just like draw a card from the top of your deck and then immediately put it into play with the Haruta or the Duval.
Yeah.
So it's essentially doing the same thing as peel off is for you, except also attacking, taking a block for you, and having counter if you don't get to play it. So I think it's like super broken, by far the best card in the deck. I think it's what really makes the deck work. And I think the thing with Marco is you really have to build around the Sanji combo. That's obviously like what makes the deck good. That's why it's so broken, is because you have like these 17, 18 Dawn turns. And I found when I played the event build, and then I played a similar build with like the Ezo Searchers and the Jozu, 6-cost Jozu to bounce, and I played Vista in there too, and a lot of Whitebeard stuff. So I was trying that out, and I kept losing because I felt like I wasn't making it far along enough into the game, or I was just like running out of cards in hand because I had to counter so aggressively to like try and survive long enough to get 1 or 2 Sanji off. So the biggest solution to that was just like playing cards that drew you cards so you can kind of survive long enough. So that's why I went with the 4 Ivankov and 4 ulti. Because you'll maintain this hand size of like 5, 6, 7 all game. So you'll have enough defense to like be able to make it and just play like back-to-back Sanjis. And the combos that you get off the Ivankov are just really good. The the Haruda is really strong. It's okay. I've thought about going down to 2, but it kind of came into the deck at first because I wanted a way on 9 Dawn to be able to clear like an 8-cost 9k character. And you can't do that because you need leader ability and Otama and Rayleigh, which is like a 10 Dawn combo. But with the Haruda in play, you can Otama, give the rest of Dawn to your leader, use your leader ability, then play Rayleigh and clear a 9k body. So that was really nice. But honestly, just like once the Ivankov came into the deck, just like having a way to cheat it out early is so nice because your opponent sometimes will just waste resources trying to clear it. Like Lucci will just like use resources trying to clear it, or kind of like in the middle of the game, like I'll swing with it for 3k, and then again it'll just pseudo block for you and like divert a swing away from your life. And at that point, like that late in the game, you're really just using leader ability Sanji every turn, like on those 9 or on your 10 Dawn turn. So you don't really need to float the Dawn as badly, but they still like want to get rid of it, which is nice.
As Marguerite came up as well. That's a 2.
That was like the 50 or the 48th and or 49th and 50th card in the deck.
Yeah.
It originally was a 4th Haruda and like I think like a 3rd Seaquake maybe.
Yeah.
But I just wanted, like, if I didn't draw into Ivankov or ulti, like I just wanted a card that kind of just still gave me card advantage.
Yeah.
And Marguerite was just like the answer to that. But I am debating cutting it for 2 of the 4-cost Marco or something else.
Yeah.
It can brick in your hand like a little bit.
Do you miss the 4-cost Marco right now, the blocker? Because you don't run it, but you don't have a ton of Whitebeard cards regardless. But
yeah, I never felt like I was using that much when I was playing like a more Whitebeard centric build, because I feel like I was just trying to protect my life so much that I was like at 3 life fairly often enough, like at the points where I'd want to use the effect. Best instances are for the Marguerite, is like it's early in the game and you just like need to draw some cards or just like find what you need and survive, or you're trying to close out the game and then you can like Dofi or Duval stack your deck, Marguerite draw another blocker, leader ability draw a 3rd blocker, and then just like play down 3 blockers for 8 to 10 Dawn and then survive enough for the next turn. But I think there are some other cards that can go better. So that is maybe getting cut. And I'm debating the Whitebeard or the Dragon over the Whitebeard instead. Is like kind of the other cut that I was thinking.
yeah.
But other than that, the deck feels insane. Between like, oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, it feels like it's really good. I like this Ivankov package, right? I think there is something there, but maybe something in the middle of the top end or the event wise needs to be shaken up, right? But like obviously anything could be made better. Just
Yeah, I feel like between like the 4 ulti, the 4 Doflamingo, and the 4 Duval, I'm always finding the cards I need. Like I played Sanji every single game pretty much.
Yeah.
And like I always have Rayleigh like right on 8 when I need it, or right on 9 when I need it. I think I whiffed Rayleigh when I needed it really badly, like maybe 1 out of 9 rounds.
Yeah.
So like it adds a lot of consistency to the deck, and just the amount of blockers that you have.
Sure.
Just lets you survive long enough to just like play multiple Sanji out, or like
you have Duval, right? So it helps out too, right? All those blockers.
Yeah, I've debated a 4th pudding, which sounds kind of crazy.
No, I've also debated.
No, it
that.
doesn't.
I've also
I mean,
debated.
I feel like when it comes to pudding, a lot of cards a lot of blue decks that play it can like kind of swing big and take advantage of pudding, right? Because they can't guard out of like attacks, they can't play around pudding. Have you guys found that just pudding's just more effective these days because people just draw a lot of cards, they just don't respect it, or are you actually swinging tall sometimes like early game so they have like too many cards in hand?
There's a lot of decks that farm card advantage, like it's their deck identity, such as Lucci and BY Luffy. So I feel like being able to for sure know that you're going to draw into a pudding or have a pudding is just too good. Because like there's Eric Chuckle over there. I ran through it, I didn't see a single one.
Exactly. I was like, there's no way. I draw 50 cards this game. How did I not see a pudding?
Yeah. You just need to see pudding in this meta, and I feel like 3 is the new standard because 2 is not enough. But even then, sometimes 3 doesn't feel enough. But having a deck that filters and lets you set your top end, like with the puddings, is just really good.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think you need it against black too, because like sometimes you'll like poke them for 5, and like the threat of pudding is like, oh, they'll discard their hand and stay at 4 and 5. When that's fine. Like as long, I don't care if I'm whittling their life away or whatever. Like I can like the game can drag on as long as you want. Just as long as you don't have the resources to just clear everything I play every single turn, then I'm in a fine spot. So either they counter out of your 5k swings, or they don't counter out and they like take the first 2 life, really kind of greedily. You need to punish them, because if you don't have the ability to do that, they're just going to clear everybody you play every turn.
I mean, in general, when you're playing against decks and they have, I mean, is it just, it always depends on the deck, right? But it's like every deck that has like 7, 8, 9 cards you're just hitting. Is there ever time where you're hitting a 7 or a 6 card hand if you just have nothing else to do?
Sure.
Sometimes.
I mean, yeah, I would, especially if I'm attacking a character. I'll put them to 5 and then I'll attack that character. So now they have to decide, are you going to go down to 3 or 4 cards, or are you going to keep the body on board? So that does happen more often.
Oh, yeah, because they really can't protect the character. Okay.
Yeah, pudding's invisible pressure is insane in the deck.
Yeah. If I'm
go ahead.
If I'm playing against a purple yellow pudding, if I know they have like based off of their 1 cost pudding search or their Paros Sparrow search, like even if they have a 5 card hand, if I know like 1 or 2 of them are a 10 mom, like I still might just putting them.
Yeah, especially since they reveal their life.
Yeah.
They reveal their life and they show a 10 mom, and you just get them.
Well, I guess it just depends if you have anything better to do. If that's what happens a lot in the middle of the game, you're like, I have literally nothing better to do but then to play this pudding, and then just fuck your shit up, right? And I think it's going to be actually really relative against Blue Dofi soon, because they're going to do a lot of life stacking, and you're just going to reset everything for them. They're going to be like, oh, I don't have any information now, so that might be funny, I suppose.
Yeah. And then because we get to see so many cards, like it can just be like a incidental, like, oh, we got the pudding here, and we can just pudding them.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I kind of want to hear about the 5 cost ace. I feel like we didn't talk about it a lot, but I obviously am playing the Ivankov package like over that, so I really want to hear like why is it good, or like because I feel like the turns you can play it on, I usually want to do other things, and then after like my 6-7 Dawn turn, like I just am wanting to play Rayleigh or Sanji or something like that. So I feel like I wasn't gonna use it as much.
I actually wanted to.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say I wanted to go over that earlier, but we went a little fast. But 5 cost ace, I feel like is one of the better mid game plays that the deck has, because like a lot of cases when I was testing it was I have no mid game pressure and I have nothing to do mid game except for just play a Sanji's Pilaf, and that didn't do that enough for me. So I feel like 5 cost ace, especially if we go second, gives us the ability to develop a board for them to burn their early resources on it first, so that when we do get to the later bigger plays, it's a lot harder for them to take care of it because they dealt with it. And if they don't deal with it, then it's cards that we can use to pressure them and swing at them more or trade into their board. So it's a lot easier to pressure and keep up the clear.
Are there games where you don't play it? Because I mean, like your even curve is like, all right, I'll play Atmos or Dofi on 4, Jozu on 6, Rayleigh on 8, Sanji on 10. Like, do you ever find times where it's just like not doing anything for you?
Not really, because like although the deck is consistent, we're not always gonna have Jozu and like other cards. So just having another option, because how my deck is worked, it's worked to always have like either a double card, like a double board development play, or a clear play, which is why I run the 4-cost Atmos, Marco obviously, and then again with the King Do and the Jozu, they can still get their value, because even if I do cheat out a King Do and they don't clear it, okay, I show them the 2 cards I'm going to use anyway, get +2, swing 6, and then I can just bounce it back to Hammer Jozu. There are also games where Dofi helps up set an insane turn for me, where it's like, okay, I'll draw into Sanji, and then I'll play Ace to play off the Marco. So not only did I just go 3 cards deep into my deck, but I got 3 cards for the price of 1.
Have you done that before? Is that just the Ace?
I've done it before. There was like
I forgot it's a potential.
There's a day where I Lucci just shit on my board with 2 Nene ass fucking Lorias, and I was like, all right. I top deck Sanji. I was like, fuck it, Sanji, play Ace, Marco. Okay, we're good. We're back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to play a block, I mean, there's times in the late game you actually just need the blocker down, so you might just like use Sanji and play Marco, but like that's a higher level play of playing all 3.
There are also just times where I take early damage to go to 2, so that the literal second I can play Ace, I can go straight into Marco. Now I have an unkillable blocker that can eat any big swing they throw at me for 1k.
Yeah,
it's like I'll take that any day than rather just dumping my hand for counter.
Yeah, which is dangerous, but it happens. I do want to say Ace is also searchable by Ezo, so it's actually even more consistent to find Ace than anything.
So I use a. So when you're saying how often do you use, I use Ace all the time. It is my 6-drop play, and if I'm going first, it's usually my 7-drop play as well. Because Ace into Namo or Ace into Marco, which is the ideal one, is always what I'm trying to do in my mid game. And I usually take my first 2 life, depending on the matchup. If it's a more aggressive matchup, I can. But against most of the common matchups, I like to play Marco on my 6 Dawn, have 2 life, have a billion cards in hand. And then I use Ace to value out. So now all their attacks have to try and get like a lot of value when they attack me. And I can just use Marco to just pitch a card to like keep it on board. But Ace on 7, like the reason I like Ace is because it gets to, for the most part, is just a 5/6 body that brings out a blocker. So we get the defense from it by either bringing out Namo, who's a blocker, or Marco, who's a blocker, and then we get the body that can trade into basically everything. So on odd curve, I do Namo most of the time, so I can set up so I can go Sanji the next turn. Or on even, I'll get to go like my ulti play, and then it's not as good as his Dofi play. I do get to see 3 cards as well, but he gets to put them all on board. I go ulti, I'll add whatever Ace, and I'll put whatever I want to bring back or play off the top on the second card. Play Ace, play the extra card, so I drew that card essentially. Then I'll go 1 on leader effect, draw, and then from there it gives me a free bottom or top depending on what I need for that turn. So I found myself using it a lot. So I like your Ivankov because the second part of the effect, whereas if you have 6 or less cards, draw a card when it attacks.
That shit is insane.
I was reading that. I was reading that, and I've been looking through all the 2 drops while we've been going through this, and I'm seeing if there's anything else I would try. But like the second part of that effect, like the top part's great. Don't get me wrong, like playing a free guy, but drawing when you have 6 or less cards in hand is very, very interesting. So I've been liking that.
Yeah, left the kitchen. He's still in there.
Steakfrank, bro. So I'm cooking.
I like it.
It is really good.
But yeah, I found myself playing Ace almost all the time because I don't run the Jozu, so like I don't have like my guaranteed 6 Dawn turn, and for the most part, I usually want my 6 Dawn turn to be Ace or 7 Dawn turn to be Ace.
Okay, got it. Is there any like specific cards you guys wanted to like just talk about at all?
Honorable mentions.
I feel like
Mine was Seaquake, but Frank is using it in his. I originally had it at 3 in my list, but it was only really good against turn 2 Kuzan. And then obviously I used it to clear Rebecca to go for game. I've done that before, but
yeah, I like it for the Rebecca. The most use I got out of it is the Rebecca clear. I thought I needed it for the Kuzan, but honestly, like I'm not playing anything when the Kuzan comes down that I like need to clear the Kuzan for. Like, what are they reducing? Like realistically, like my ulti to 0. Like, okay. So by the time I am gonna play a character that the Kuzan is gonna be a problem for, I can just gravity blade it the turn before. Like I can just gravity blade it on 7 or 8 or whatever, or I Rayleigh it before it gets any value. So I never felt like Seaquake was that good against the Kuzan. It's okay into Brook sometimes on like your early turns. But I feel like my list kind of has a bit of a fighting chance against Zoro, just with like all your low cost blockers and all your low cost characters that can attack. Like I'll attack them with Haruta, or I'll Ivankov out of pudding, leave the pudding on, swing 2 into something I reduced, like a blocker chopper, and then bounce the pudding to hand. So I felt like having the Seaquake to deal with Zoro a little bit better, along with all that other stuff, kind of gave me enough reason to put it in. But I kind of agree with what Eric was saying. It's like if you just take the loss to Zoro, like there's not as much of a reason to have the Seaquake in. It's okay against Galgara too, because you can like reduce their ohms early and then just pop them and kind of fight off some of the aggression. But that's another card. Like if I found something I wanted to put in, like say I wanted to put in the 5 cross ace, like I can see myself like cutting 2 Seaquake and 2 Marguerite and other stuff. But
I have 2 picks actually.
Okay.
One being the 5 cost Marco from set 3.
Okay.
And I really liked that card because it was just like on play pop a 3k, and it was like, okay, leader ability and do that. But the setup requires you to make sure that you have that extra Dawn. Most cards in the game are 6k bases anyway, so it didn't matter. The only target being like literally Kuzan and like Rebecca, like good targets for Marco.
Yeah.
And then you also need to run the event package because of the nature of that card being, if you want to keep it alive, you have to do events, but if you don't see your events, then it doesn't matter.
Some people were playing that card without events, like just like they didn't tell your opponent they didn't have an event, of course.
Yeah.
Right?
And then the second card being, hey man, I'm a chef. I got to work with every ingredient. Okay, Phoenix Brand.
Phoenix Brand? What is this card?
It's a 4 cost event in set 8 that we got. It's a blue card, 4 cost. If you show off 2 Whitebeard character cards, and then you get to bottom, I believe, a 6 cost or less. And I was like, man, a searchable card that just bottoms, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But I burned 4 Dawn to do that. My turn is over. I didn't develop anything.
Yeah, it was just like a cheaper Raging Tiger, it feels, right? Is that basically what this is?
A little bit. And then I looked at Josie and I was like, Josie does the same thing, but he's a 7k body with a counter.
Yeah.
And I get to bounce a card back to my hand, so I get to keep recur cards.
I've thought about the 5 cost event from OPO5. I can't remember. It's like got a long name, but it's got the picture of Kaido on it. And it's, if your leader is multicolored, draw a card and bounce a 5 cost or less back to the owner's hand.
The triggers draw 2.
Yeah,
the triggers draw 2.
Yeah, I remember that card too. Yeah, it's pretty good. But these it reminds me of ulti because that's literally what it's for, right? It's like reminds you of ulti because it's multicolored. You get to do a bust and stuff.
I think it was meant for Blackpool Kaido.
One thing I kind of wanted to go over was actually Mulligans. What are you guys' thoughts? I mean, I think it's very dependent on your deck. Very depends on obviously your opponent's leader. But what are you guys generally like mulliganing for? Ever?
That's a tough one because not only is it deck dependent because all of our shit is different, but I feel like it's heavy matchup dependent because this isn't a deck that just has like the fucking like go-to curve. It's like, oh, spam them for 1, fucking Rebecca or like Kuzan, It's kind of just like react to what the opponent's doing in like most cases, often than not. But I'd say like the only like go-to I have is like hard mulliganing for either an Ezo or a 5-cost ace, so that
Agreed.
once it gets to my tempo play, I can just like boom boom. It's like now I got
Okay.
2 bodies on the board and we have our tempo. But other than that, it's
Yeah.
kind of just like, okay, what's happening on the board state? What do I have in my hand?
Okay. I think that's good advice. As when it comes to the mulligan, I find obviously this leader just you get to draw and put a card at the bottom every turn or top, right? And that fixes most of the time. I've kept like random hands because I'm like I don't know what to do but my leader will fix it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm just like, as long as my hand's not just like absolutely
Yeah.
a brick, I'm just like, all right, this is fine. We can work with this. We're drawing a card every turn.
Okay.
So I'll try not to mulligan like too many counterless cards. Like if I have like 2 or 3 counterless cards in hand and like nothing else going on, I'll throw it back. But if I'm on evens and I have like Duval and like a decent like Duval ulti, like I'll keep that, or like even like Duval and Rayleigh for 8 and like a 3-cost Dofi, like that's fine also. If I'm playing against loot like black, I'll maybe want to try and find pudding or like a Dofi to dig for a pudding. That's maybe what I'll keep. Or if I'm playing against like black yellow and I see Raging Tiger in my opening hand, I'll just like snap keep it. But other than that, I'm just mostly looking for Ivankov. I'm like, if I have Ivankov in my opening hand, I'll just keep it 100%. It's just too good.
Okay. Yeah, it might be a good new snap keep, right? Okay. Got it. Is there anything we'll talk about the biggest thing is against black yellow Luffy. Are we keeping big cards? Are we still looking for middling cards then or is it just pudding? Right? What are your thoughts specifically against black yellow Luffy in the mulligan?
You're just trying to find pudding. Like you'll find your big cards. You have more big cards than you have pudding, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll find your big cards. Usually you just need 1 or 2 of them to actually win the game. The main thing is you need to also survive because they will be swinging at you. But you really just want to find pudding, and then if you're in Raging Tiger, you probably want a Raging Tiger for the key moment. But yeah, for the most part, you mull for pudding. I think pudding or cards that let you see enough cards that's findable. So either the Dofi, the ulti, the Ivankov, things like that. Like for me, Namul, because that's 2 extra cards. Like if you have enough of those, you'll see enough cards that you end up getting there.
Okay.
I'd also like to mention, the beauty of Marco is being able to mulligan with any hand and it being okay. Like most of the hands you get as Marco are playable. I feel like that's what makes him good. On top of him having a filter, so you're not in like a bit of a rushed like I guess like feeling, because it's like if you see like 1 or 2 of the cards in your deck, you're usually fine to work with that and just be like, okay, we can carry out through the game now.
Yeah.
Because you can see so many cards.
Yeah. I found it's hard to brick with this deck. It can, like any deck, but it's harder than other decks. I haven't had as many frustrating moments unless it's mostly misplays that happen, right?
This deck is very hard to play.
Yeah, I do like this deck a lot. I like this deck a lot because it's not like Sokka back in the day where like you could it's so strong. You're so consistent and strong that you can misplay and still win. This one's like it's really strong, but if you misplay, you just lose. Like it's not. To be fair, it's probably not worth the effort you put in to win compared to other decks, but it's so much fun, and it's so like you get so many decision points. I mean, and different break points that's just so fun.
It's very rewarding too. Like it just feels great when you when you win the game. It's like I manifested this win because like I played it perfectly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this red-blue combo does not have Rebecca Hina Lucci, which is pretty much like what made Sakazuki good in general, right? It was Rebecca Hina Lucci, but it has its own flavor, but it's getting to late games.
We get our crazy Sanji, Rayleigh.
Yeah, we have Sanji Rayleigh.
That's ours.
Yeah. As a little
about
go ahead.
Vista a little bit too, the 3-cost Vista.
I had it in my first version.
Vista
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's a thinker.
No. I was just gonna say the same. Like I mess around with him too. It was kind of, he just felt a little underwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
He's
you
an
said
honorable
before,
mention.
there's too many 6K bodies.
There's too many 6K
Yeah.
bodies.
If there was more 5K bodies, 100% I'd be running this.
Oh yeah, like upcoming for starter deck season.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dofi is like, okay, Marco, Visa, godlike. They're good now. But we also have 7 beards, so we don't need them still.
And then before we go on to, I'm assuming the next one's going to be 8.5. I want to ask Jansuko, do you still think you need kick courses because you only have 12 non-counters?
It's funny because that was brought up to my attention literally like either yesterday or day before. I'm thinking about taking it out because there are just a lot of moments where kick course is kind of it saved me like a game or two, but most of the time I bottom deck it if it's early game because it's like I don't need this right now. Like same with like some other 2Ks is like I don't need this. I need plays, but if I were to remove it, I'd probably put in the 2 Raging Tiger for it, just for like a little bit more insurance for
I
BY
thought you would
Luffy.
just put in like more 2Ks or 1Ks.
That's what I thought. They were going to do 2 King
like
Dues.
2 King
That's
Dues or
interesting.
something, because that's what that is. It's the 2K when you think about it.
I mean, I already have what 4 Otama 4 Jozu 2 King Du, and I feel
Yeah,
like,
you already have a lot of 2Ks already. I
the bad manners is just like extra like insurance counter, but if the deck is played well enough, then I don't feel like it's needed, to be honest.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, no problem.
I play 16 counterless cards, and I've never felt like I needed kick course. Like I feel like what you're saying is just like if you are smart about like what you're bottom decking, like sometimes in the early to mid game, like I'll bottom deck a Whitebeard or I'll bottom deck a Sanji even. Just like knowing that I need the counter or that I have so many ways to like dig 10 cards deep into my deck with like Dofi ulti that I don't really feel like you need the kick courses that insurance.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that analyzing. Okay. I didn't want to go into 8.5 just yet. I wanted to go into a very generalization for set 8. What this deck's good against, what it's bad against, right? It's a generalization. You could agree, disagree, right? What does it seem to be bad against? Like what just slaps Marco in the face?
So how about you say different decks, and then we'll say if we think it's good or bad
well, Reiju. It's tough.
I'm gonna put Reiju as we're slightly bad again.
Yeah, slight disadvantage.
Okay.
I feel closer to 50-50 with it.
I'm the same, but if you have to pick one,
yeah,
slightly disadvantage instead of 50-50.
Okay.
Same. If they high roll, they high roll.
There you go.
I guess the easy one is Zero.
I think it's bad for us.
It's bad.
It's tough. It's
tough. We can win. Don't get us wrong. We can win, but
it's winnable. But
yeah.
it's
rough.
Yeah.
I'm pushing that boulder right now.
He's probably doing the most work for us because I don't think Myers and Tukas is any better. His is like probably the closest one.
The hottest deck in the market right now. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you're fine.
If they hit like double event into double 3-cost searcher chopper, like
I think
I
feel like most decks lose to that.
Exactly. But if they don't do that, I feel like I play enough blockers and enough low cost characters that can swing to them that it's like
that's why I think
a
you
little
really
bit more favorable. Yeah.
You playing enough low guys that you can attack their board the moment they attack you is because what I find myself finding too far behind on board even by turn 3 because they have a full board by turn 3.
Yeah. Okay. The hottest deck right now, which seems to be up and coming, is Purple Luffy.
I actually do have experience with that because some of my practice partners play Luffy. If they don't see Magellan, it's a little free. If they see Magellan, it sets us back, but it's not as bad as you probably would think it is. At least for my deck, because I have the insurance of like Marco staying on the board no matter what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then Raging Tigers, all right, your board is gone.
I'm on we're
Yeah.
favored.
Yeah, we're favored.
Yeah.
I'm on we're favored.
Oh, yeah.
I think without Gravity Blade, it might be slightly unfavored, but with Gravity Blade, I think.
Oh, okay. You think Gravity Blade's like the thing there? Have you tested it lately or against Magellan or Magellan Purple?
I feel like it's
a little bit.
Yeah, because
But pudding.
if you get to 10 Dawn, because pudding is gross. They actually almost don't want to take their life now. It's actually kind of hilarious. But it from my experience, because I've played this deck a lot against Plouffe, right? If you get to 10 Dawn, you don't care about the Magellan anymore, essentially. And if you don't have that option, you because of the Marco, you're able to go wide, and they're one of the decks that are really suck against wide, right? Yeah, what about Rob Lucci? What's Rob Lucci feel like right now?
I don't know about you guys, but I kind of cooked that deck, so I feel like it's favored for me.
I would put slightly favored. It's mostly if we can get to the point where we can Sanji bring out another guy. Because if we can do that, they have a hard time getting rid of both. Like, because it depends. I guess it really just depends on how many Ice Ages they see. Because they need Ice Age to clear a guy. And then if we put too many big bodies on board, you usually just win. So
I feel slightly favored as well. I think it depends more highly on if you see pudding or not. I think you if they take the first two hits, I think you have to pudding them or they have an edge against you. And I think it really depends on who wins the die roll too.
Yeah,
I will agree with that. Going second just is so much better into them than most matchups.
Taking second from them is really strong because you put them off of their on Moria curve and us being on the Aria curve, which is preferably second in my opinion. Yeah. We just take it. We take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about Black Yellow Luffy? I think
we're favored.
We're favored.
It's favored.
As the Black Yellow Luffy player playing against it to him. God, especially because you have to play around everything. It is so annoying.
Yeah, play around pudding. Play
around pudding. Play around Raging Tiger. You don't know if they run Marco or not. You don't know if they run Dragon. If I saw Steakfrank's list, I'd be like, "What is going on? Why is he drawing a billion cards? Trust me."
Why is he trying?
Yeah. Dude, it's favored, but you
Jackson.
Can definitely
win.
Funny, dude. You can definitely win. But it's a blue deck. Blue decks or we naturally have a good matchup against us. Pudding's really good card against us. Raging Tiger's really good against us. They have multiple blockers, so it basically forces our Moria play to have to bring back Rocket Luffy to kill the Marco, so that we can get our attacks through. So it basically comes down to the last couple turns. Do they have enough to counter 1 9K? Usually is what I found. If they encounter a 9K and they have one life, then usually they can get us the next turn because they just have a bunch of big bodies.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, that's all I wanted to ask about the matchups. Is there any other topics you wanted to go about or what you're looking forward to, Marco? I guess let's talk about 8.5. Is that a good topic we can jump into a little bit if as it's kind of an end section?
I guess the main 3 cards are going to be 7 Newgate, 5 Ace, and then because of Steakfrank's list, I'm thinking of the 2-drop Teach.
The 2-drop
Teach?
The 2-drop Teach from the Warriors team deck.
Oh my god!
There's a 2-drop
Teach.
There's a 2-drop Teach that when on play you can put a card from your hand to the top of your deck. If you lose cards,
it's activate
main. Yes, activate main. Put a card from your hand to the top of your deck, so it gives you Ivankov, so you get less down to draw. Put 2 Rested Dawn on any character. That I think is spicy.
I want to argue against this Teach card. Okay, when you put a card from your hand to the top of your deck, it's a neg 1. Let's be real.
But if you get it back for free, it's a neutral.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and then the key thing is because you go down on a card, you can draw another one off of Ivankov.
Isn't Marco's skill just 1 Dawn anyway? So it's basically free.
Yeah.
No, but but it's also a 2-drop, so you can play it off of. So you can literally go play. You can go leader effect, put the Teach on top, play Ivankov, bring back Teach. You don't have to use the effect that turn.
Yeah.
And then on Odd Curve, what Odd Curve lets you do is you just do the effect you don't attach Dawn, and you can play a Sanji on 9 and bring out the guy you want.
Yeah. You
So
have the easiest
options.
setup on 9 now, going Odd.
Mm-hmm.
I have to change the thumbnail to just Eric smoking a fat ass joint.
What do you mean? These are great ideas. There's no way. I saw his list. I immediately started thinking of so many cards.
Oh my God.
I like it a lot. You're gonna see me trying it. I'm just gonna
dude,
say, you're randomly running to me ranked.
You're gonna be on
trying
top decks, you know. It's gonna be.
Dude, I'm the psychopath that played Tempest Kick in DY, bro. Like, come on.
That's so actually insane, though.
I just think it's we're talking about 8.5. Those are the cards I thought.
No, I'm thinking good insane.
No, that's I can't. I'm just in disbelief, basically, like because I've been playing a lot of Dofi, and I'm like I don't want to play that card in Dofi.
I don't want to play it in Dofi either.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
So
on
it's
Dofi,
funny.
But I like the idea here.
That's funny. That's like, hey, this is a good Whitebeard card. Oh, the Blackbeard is a good Whitebeard card.
That's what I'm saying.
What the fuck?
I will say though, it is quite nice getting our own red jack. Getting a red jack is so good for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially for Marco, since we can hit even bigger targets with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think too that this deck actually has a pretty good blue Dofi matchup. In my opinion,
I think so too.
But purple Luffy is actually really sketch, dude. I don't know how much theme deck, like post theme deck testing you've done, but purple Luffy just feels so bad because they're like playing their 7-cost Luffy into the draw Sanji, which like essentially is literally the same thing I'm doing, which is just playing a 3-cost card, you know, that's going to draw me cards every time it swings to a 2-cost, and they're just like 2 Dawn ahead of me because you're going to take second, they're going to ramp to 4, and then they're going to ramp to 7, and then they'll play it, and then if you don't on your 6 Dawn turn or 7 Dawn turn, or what is that for you? 6 Dawn? Yeah, 6 Dawn going second. Have a way to clear that 6K body.
They draw so many cards.
You're so screwed because they're keeping the same advantage that you are, and they have more life, and they're like 3 Dawn ahead of you, and they just smoke you.
But personally, I've done a lot of purple Luffy testing with blue Dofi back and forth. It's not that good against blue Dofi in 8.5. Right? Most purple Luffy's just say, no, we're just gonna wait for set 9. We're gonna wait for the Luffy to come out, for the event to come out. But Eric,
I don't know. I'm gonna be trying. I played against some OP9 Dofi, so that's the only way I can play, unless it's I have a friend. There's you play a lot of blockers, and if you end up drawing, I kid you not, a billion cards. So you can try and grind them.
You're not playing the 9-drop Luffy in 8.5. You can't play the event. So
I know you can't play 9-drop Luffy.
You're not really drawing as many cards as you are in set 9.
No, I mean that's how crazy it is in 09. But going to now, you still draw a lot of cards. You still draw off Zoro. You still draw off the new Onami. You still draw off Sanji. You draw off Queen because you still run those cards. So yeah, like you still draw a lot. But yeah, I agree with you. The main difference is like we might be running more 9 Lin because it gives you a life, gets rid of whatever their big guy is, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But overall, I think there'll still be some purple Luffy enthusiasts. Yeah. I think it'll still be probably one of the better decks. But because like let's be real, Luffy into Sanji is just so broken. Like that is like probably one of the best turn 3 plays you could have.
Huh.
It's good.
Okay.
But I do think Blue Dofi is going to be the deck to beat, especially since they don't really get anything in OP9.
Yeah.
They mostly just have everything already. So
they actually remove cards. Like from like 8.5, it actually gets easier almost. Like your deck gets better even though you're not adding any more cards.
Agreed.
Just because of the way the matchups go. But I think we talked a whole ton about Marco 8.5, and this is kind of exciting. I kind of want to do this topic for other decks going forward, maybe in sets with, you know, you guys, other people, things that are going on, right? But I want to leave this time again to give you guys a quick little shout out, or and then where we can find you on either Twitter or Calendly or whatnot, right? Go ahead, Frank. Where can we find you?
Yeah, Steakfrank on Twitter. Join the Steakfrank Discord. And that's all I got. Coaching's closed. Sorry.
Yeah, all good. Yeah. And Eric.
Quint TCG on Twitter. You can message me there. You can message me on Metafy, Quint, or on Discord if you have me, or if you can find me.
Yeah. You can join the Discord down below. You can find there.
Yeah, also Keck Discord. I'm also
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys, if you're watching this, you're probably on the Discord. Let's join the Discord. I'm gonna give my shout outs. Please join the Keck Discord, the Keck's Corner. On Sunday nights, I do serious Sundays, but generally I try to do this when tournaments come up. I want to play more webcam games so people can get used to either playing IRL or on webcam with real cards, right? With a physical thing. So, and if you guys know, it's really, really hard to find good webcam partners in general, especially if you're, a little newer. But if that's the case, join the Discord. You'll see that there. And then obviously, Patreon, blah, 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 blah. And then Jansuko, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jansuko999. That's 3 9s. You can find me there. You can find me on Discord. I have a Calendly open for coaching. If you would like to get coached on any of these weird niche tier 2 decks I like playing, because that's usually what I talk with. Yeah, you can find me there.
Okay, great. And you obviously have a building YouTube channel, right? So give that a
building
sub.
YouTube channel as well. Type the name in. You should be the only Jansuko, to be honest, on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, with that, thank you all so much for watching this hour and 10-minute plus video on all about Marco. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next time if you're looking for a next all about X video. See you all in the next one. Ciao.